Hey, hi. I'm Floyd Rosini, the journeyman's son. And this is the second part in a 5-part series in how to prepare your sample. And the second part here, we're going to do staining. We're going to stain the sample. You'll see in the video that I'm staining with a water-based dye. And I prefer to use water-based dyes because they're much more clear. Water-based dyes are much more light, fast. They hold up much better. Pigmented stains, they kind of even out the color of the wood. The pigment has a tendency to spread, and even though it may be a little on the thin side, it still kind of hides the grain of the wood. I prefer a dye where I can see everything that's going on. I love to see the character of the wood, and that's why I like to use dye. Actually, as a wood finisher, you know, that job description doesn't have anything to do with building furniture. The wood finisher is actually a restorer. He restores what already has been. Old pieces of furniture, fine antiques, those kinds of pieces of furniture that you want to move forward in history, and you want to be able to finish them in the same way that they were originally done. I mean, there may be some exceptions to that, where if you're working on a top that gets a lot of use, you may want something more durable than shellac, and so that's okay. You can do that. But for the most part, the finisher has got to determine the age of the piece, knows the period of it, and the type of finishing that was going on at the time to be able to replicate that. That's what a finisher does. The finisher matches colors, blends colors. Sometimes you'll have, and I have a video coming up where I had to go to an old candy factory they're making apartments out of the old candy factory, and they had to replace some of the flooring. So there were some floorboards that were absolutely brand new, and they had to be matched to the old floor. And they weren't staining the old floor, they were clear coating it. But the old floor had so much color to it that they just couldn't use the new boards and not stain them to match. So I got called to do that. And I have some video of that, so I'll show that to you in another video. Again, the purpose for this channel, the reason that I'm here doing this is, I mean, the writing is pretty much on the wall for wood finishing craft. Every place I look, wood finisher is not a job that people are going to be going into. It's a job that people are coming out of. People are not going to be doing this anymore because of the way society is these days. And so there are not going to be many people who know a lot about what real finishing is. You can find out finishing on YouTube, and that's good. That's where I am. I'm here on YouTube. But I want to be able to give you my experience of almost 50 years in this business that I learned from my grandfather and my father. I have a history of finishing, but I've been doing this, and I've done it as a trade, and I've done it because I've been an apprentice for 3 years. I know how to do this, and I want you to know how to do it. After I'm dead, I want more people to know how to do it, because there aren't that many people that really know, that are on YouTube, to be able to tell you from beginning to end. And I'm going to do as many videos as I possibly can to show you how to restore furniture, how to make it come back alive, how to restore old finishes rather than even stripping them. We're going to recondition old finishes. I'm going to show you how to do touch-up and polishing. So there's going to be a lot of things you're going to learn here on my channel. And that's why I want you to come back, because there's going to be such a lot of content, so many things. And that's why I want you to subscribe and like my videos if you like them. If you don't, I understand. You can always give me a thumbs down, and I'll deal with that. But I think that you're going to like the content that comes out of here. So please consider subscribing. Come back, see me, because I'm really interested in you learning everything that I know. I'm not afraid to give you all the knowledge that I have. You know, I remember a story that my father used to tell me when he was learning the trade. He was learning in a furniture factory where there were a lot of immigrants, and he was born here in America. But he was working in that factory, and my grandfather was there too. He actually ran the department. But my dad, he was working next to other guys who were mostly from Italy. And when they would mix a color, they would turn their back because they didn't want anybody to know what they were doing. Because for them, that was job security. And he had to figure it out on his own. Or he got together with his dad, and his dad explained it to him. Well, I'm here to give you everything. I'm not going to turn my back on you. You have questions, go to the description, go to the comments, ask me a question. I'll do my best to answer it as best as I can. If you have problems with some of the things I say, I'll try to explain to you why I feel the way I do and why it has worked for me, because I'm not going to show you anything that's not worked for me. And I've made a living at this for a really long time, and a good living at that. And I'll tell you about some of the projects that I've been on, some of the things that I've done as we go through the videos. But right now, we're going to get back to staining, and then we'll wrap up the staining video, and we'll come back and do the finishing. Okay? Thanks. All right, we're back. Got it all vacuumed off, and now we're going to stain it. Now, I had some stain already mixed up. In another video, we can do some custom mixing of dyes. This is a dye. It's a driftwood dye on the oak. It's a very light driftwood, so it should look pretty good. I think it's a pretty contemporary finish. A lot of people like to do that on their floors. I've seen it on bedroom furniture. I've seen it on a lot of different woodworking projects. So we're going to use that driftwood dye. We have the board. It's nice and smooth. The edges are really nice and rounded, so I'm real happy with that. We're going to use the cheesecloth wipe. If you haven't seen anything about the cheesecloth wipe, you should really check out my first video. It shows you, it's all about the cheesecloth wipe. It's how good it is. And so when you get the wipe, you want to make sure the edges are nice and stretched out. You take it, you fold it in half, you fold it in half again, then you take it and you wrap it around your hand and you tuck under all the ends. You get these ends tucked under, and you make a nice pad, and there it is. You have your pad. Now you can go to work. And I never use a brush to stain, ever. I don't use a brush for almost anything. Once in a while I use a brush. We're going to work in carvings where I need to have that bristle to get down in there. That's different. If I need to get in a corner where my pad won't get, but even then I can show you some tricks with a pad where you rarely need a brush. Okay, so let's load up the cheesecloth, the pad, and you can see it's dripping. I got it loaded up, it's dripping. I'm gonna catch it and let it soak into the pad. Push it down in. Get it wet again. I'm gonna start from the bottom and the end, and I'm gonna work up. Watch how this works. Come right off the edge. Right off the edge. You try doing that with a brush. Never happened. And we can stretch this out. I might even be able to do the whole thing. Now I'm putting pressure on because I'm pushing the material out of the rag. And of course, there's less material in the rag at this point. But you noticed. How long did that take? Like 5 seconds. Well, not really. You get the bulk of the dye down in here, and it's thinned out there, so it's a little lighter there. So what we're going to do is we're going to load up the rag again, go from the top down. So we'll double stain it while it's still wet. You know, it's not like we're letting it dry and we're going to make it a whole lot darker. So you load up that pad again, you push it down in, get it loaded up. You don't want it so it's dripping. You know, it's not dripping, but it's wet. It's got plenty of dye on it. So then we start from the top. See that, how it comes in nice? You can see that color coming in. Woo, nice. Okay, end to end. Watch my wrist. You see, as you're going across, my wrist is moving, not the hand. This does not look like a windshield wiper. This is going on nice and straight. You have to take that into consideration. When you do this, you don't want to do this. You want to make sure your strokes are nice and straight, and you're pushing that rag along. You're pushing it along. Get it done right down to the end. You get a few dry spots, you look it over. For the most part, this thing looks great. So what we'll do now is one of the great things about cheesecloth wipe is I can take it, I can open it up, and I can get to a place where it's pretty dry, but still moist. There's even some spots that don't have any dye on them. And so I'm gonna flip this around again, and I'm gonna make another pad. And I'm gonna wipe off my excess with this. I just take it and wipe it down, pick up the excess. This is a water-based dye. Look at that. It's perfectly even. I know I got a fluorescent right over me. It's running right down the middle of the piece. But like that, you can see there's no glare. That looks really good. Okay, and for a flat surface, that's the way you do it. You get to more complicated forms, you know, a bureau, a hutch cabinet, or a brake front, or a different kind of project than just a top. I will show you additional staining techniques. But for now, and for this is perfect. And the staining job is absolutely stunning. So, and the color is right. We're gonna let this dry, and then we're gonna apply a coat of shellac over the top and start to finish it. I love finishing. I mean, I've just loved it since the first day I tried it. I have to tell you, I shouldn't say from the first day I tried it, but because the first day I tried it, my job was stripping the furniture, taking the old finish off. Not pleasant. But nonetheless, I found somewhat interesting because you had to get that finish off, all of it. And that was challenging to me. Anyway, I hope this video was really helpful to you in staining. You know, if you're determined, you take a look at what I'm doing there and follow what I'm doing, and you'll be able to do the same thing. You give it a shot and try. You know, that's half the battle, is doing it. Just try it. If it doesn't work out right, that's why you're working on a sample, so that you can make all your mistakes there. That's the whole purpose of this series of videos, is that working on the sample prepares you for working on your real project, whether it's old work, like I talked about earlier, or whether it's new work, where you've built it or someone else has built it and they're bringing it to you because you know how to do finishing. A lot of cabinet makers, they like to just clear coat right over the wood, and I find that a lot of times that it just doesn't seem like it's the right thing to do for that particular piece of furniture. There are so many things that you can do with wood when you color it and you express the grain. When you can give expression to the grain of the wood, that's when you're really in. That's when you're getting it done. And that's what we're doing here. We're staining it to give the wood expression. Okay? So next is finishing. Next up. And don't forget, like and subscribe. Love to have you come back.